Welcome back, true believers and all you merry Marvelites, to another Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy related video, as well as a discussion pertaining to the current status of Marvel games and where exactly we can see the company go further into the future with potential upcoming AAA superhero titles. So as it currently stands, we are less than 4 months away until Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy fully releases on October 26th. And while this discussion might be seen as a bit premature, considering that Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy hasn't even fully released yet, we do obviously know that there is more than one project currently in the works within the Marvel Games production pipeline. The one major Marvel game that we can clearly get out of the way right now, which I do think is safe to say may end up releasing either sometime late next year or during the year afterwards of 2023, is none other than the inevitable sequel of the Marvel's Spider-Man series. Not to mention that Marvel's Avengers is still planning to release content for years to come, given the current roadmap that we do have right now and the current updated roadmap that is planned to release in the next few weeks. However, given the poor state that the game remains to be in, we don't know exactly how much we can rely on those statements at face value. We're also expecting both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League from the DC game spectrum to fully release sometime next year in 2022. But for this instance, we are specifically talking about the realm of Marvel games and what exactly we could be seeing from them down the line. And believe it or not, but we may actually end up having two major possibilities as to what exact types of games we can expect from Marvel in the years to come. Now, this first one might seem a bit confusing considering that the first game in this potential series isn't even fully released yet. But based on this recent interview that Bill Roseman participated in, it does seem like that he's actually hinting towards a possible sequel to none other than Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy itself.
You know, you've obviously been working on this game for such a long amount of time. I've got to ask, is it kind of a self-contained story? Is it the beginning of, you know, hopefully way more Guardians stories to come? I can see an eyebrow twitching there, Bill. But what's the future? Are you hoping that this is going to be the next big, huge franchise from Eidos?
I'll say this, in true Marvel fashion, I would say it is a complete story, self-contained adventure, but, you know, however, in true Marvel style, it also sets up some awesome story threads, so who can say what the future will hold, but you're going to get a full, complete experience when you play this game.
So not only do I personally love it whenever we get to see the developers do these behind-the-scenes interviews to learn more details about the game, but I do also find it pretty darn ballsy from Bill Roseman's perspective to fully flat-out tease a possible sequel to Guardians before the first game is even fully released. And even though I personally think that this Guardians of the Galaxy game is going to be the make-or-break factor when it does come to Marvel's gaming partnership with Square Enix, I do think it's safe to say, based on Bill's teasing, that at the end of this Guardians game, we may see a possible post-credit scene that will lay in a teaser for a potential sequel that may or may not go into development after this game is possibly received well from both critics and fans alike. But on the flip side, if this game doesn't end up selling well at all and the general consensus from the community at large is rather lackluster to say the least, then I don't necessarily see a bright future for Marvel and Square's multi-year, multi-game partnership lasting any longer. But if the best case scenario for Guardians ends up happening by the time it releases in October, then I do think that Square and Marvel may have already decided on what next massive Marvel property they may want to end up turning into a major gaming franchise. And for me personally, I definitely think that this team in particular certainly deserves their time in the AAA gaming spotlight, just like what we have seen with these previous Marvel and DC properties, and that of course is none other than the Uncanny X-Men. Now, in case you missed it during the Guardians gameplay reveal, we did see that one shot of Peter cleaning his teeth in the mirror, and right next to him is actually a poster of one of the major Marvel mutants known as Dazzler. And even though we're already fully aware that the Marvel gaming universe 110% does not exist within either Spider-Man PS4, Marvel's Avengers, or Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy connecting in any way, shape, or form, this might potentially be a tease for what Square and Marvel have up their sleeves next. So while we're obviously not going to see any types of X-Men members pop up during the Guardians game, this could be a tease for them possibly receiving their own standalone game in the future. And if that means that this ends up being another part of the multi-year, multi-game partnership between Marvel and Square Enix, I just sincerely hope that they do a good job when trying to develop various X-Men members' abilities. Because in this instance where you're only going to play as Star-Lord in the Guardians of the Galaxy game, in my opinion, I do think that makes more sense to try and make a fully single-player experience. But if Marvel and Square team up again to make an X-Men game, that is a title where I think it is 100% necessary for the player to control different X-Men members on your particular team. Whether or not it ends up being a 4-player cooperative experience like Marvel's Avengers is mainly up for you to decide on your own personal preference, or a main single-player focused type of game like Spider-Man PS4 and what we're seeing with Guardians is also up for debate. But no matter if it ends up being single-player or co-op, I do think it is a necessity to play as different members of the X-Men team. Because if we were to receive a similar instance like another Marvel game that came out in the past like X-Men Origins Wolverine, where Wolverine was the only playable character in that game since it was his own standalone story, that makes a lot more sense. But if Square and Marvel decide to make the X-Men as a team game, then they need to have the player control various mutants to fully utilize all their different power sets. Still, I know there's a lot of you out there who do want the similar type of treatment with the solo single-player story-driven experience like what we saw with Spider-Man for other characters in the Marvel Universe like that of Daredevil or Punisher. However, it does appear that Square is fully banking on the team-centric games like what we saw with Avengers and Guardians, so if they do decide to do another type of team-focused game, I could certainly see either the X-Men, Fantastic Four, or the Defenders possibly be their next runner-up. But given this direct tease towards the X-Men in the Guardians game, I certainly think that their possibility in a AAA format is a lot more likely. But once again, we're just gonna have to wait and see as to how exactly Guardians turns out before we can see exactly what else Marvel Games has in store. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video that I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What type of Marvel property would you like to see be featured into a massive gaming franchise, and what do you personally expect to occur for Guardians by the time it releases? Do you think it is going to deliver on that true single-player, story-driven, third-person action-adventure type of experience that Eidos is promising? Or do you think it could falter in more ways than one? Based on everything that we're hearing so far, even though I do have some skepticisms as to how exactly the game is going to turn out, I do think at the very least it is going to be a much better experience than what we previously saw with Marvel's Avengers. But nonetheless, I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best possible outcome. And until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy. And without further ado, peace out.